3 days ago, on Tesla's Q2 2026 earnings call, an analyst asked Elon Musk a simple question. Do you see synergies from combining Tesla and SpaceX? Musk didn't say no. He said, as you can tell from all the many collaborations on so many fronts with SpaceX, there's more and more overlap. We can't talk about combining companies on an earnings call. It has to be done with the appropriate process. That single answer sent financial media into overdrive because for the first time, Musk didn't deflect the merger question. He leaned into it. And what he left unsaid is worth more than what he said. Here's what we actually know and what it would mean if this happened. Tesla and SpaceX already share engineers and collaborate on solving issues tied to power and compute constraints. In March 2026, they formed a joint venture, a factory in Austin called Terrafab, to fabricate microchips for robotics and space travel. SpaceX has already spent $506 million on Tesla Megapack power cells and $103 million on Cybertrucks for SpaceX facilities. These aren't two separate companies that happen to share a CEO. They're already operating like divisions of the same conglomerate. Stifel analysts have written that many investors consider it inevitable that Musk will move to combine SpaceX with Tesla for them. The question is not if, but when. Wedbush analyst Dan Ives put the odds of a Tesla-SpaceX tie-up at about 80%, arguing that the connective tissue between the companies is already forming. Prediction markets are pricing it similarly. Polymarket has assigned a 38% chance the merger happens by the 31st of December 2026, with over $560,000 already wagered. Kalshi bettors put the probability at 53% by May 2027. So what would the combined entity actually look like? Start with the numbers. SpaceX's corporate valuation stands at approximately $1.75 trillion, surpassing Tesla's market capitalization of approximately $1.6 trillion. Put them together and you're looking at a company worth somewhere around $3.3 trillion, which would make it the most valuable publicly traded company in human history, surpassing Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia. But the valuation is the least interesting part of the story. What makes a Tesla-SpaceX merger genuinely unprecedented is what it would create at the intersection of the two companies' core technologies. Tesla has the world's most advanced battery technology, the most sophisticated autonomous driving AI outside of a military program, and a robotics division, Optimus, that is already producing humanoid robots at scale. SpaceX has the world's most reusable rocket technology, Starlink, a satellite internet network covering most of the planet, and the Starship program, which is the only vehicle ever designed to carry humans to Mars. Musk specifically mentioned using SpaceX's Starlink satellite internet service in Tesla's robotaxis as one example of the synergies already visible between the companies. Right now, Tesla's full self-driving system depends on cellular networks. In areas with poor coverage, rural highways, disaster zones, developing markets, autonomous driving degrades or fails entirely. Starlink integration would eliminate that dependency. A Tesla robotaxi connected to Starlink doesn't need a cell tower. It has direct satellite uplink from orbit. That's not a minor feature. That's a fundamental change in where autonomous vehicles can operate. Then there's Terrafab. The $55 billion joint facility in Austin is designed to produce chips for both robotics and space travel. Right now, Tesla's AI training and inference runs on Nvidia hardware. SpaceX's onboard computing runs on custom radiation-hardened chips. A merged company would have every incentive to design a unified silicon architecture that works across both environments, autonomous vehicles on Earth and autonomous systems in space. That's a chip that doesn't exist yet. A merged Tesla-SpaceX would have both the motive and the capital to build it. The Optimus humanoid robot is the third piece of this puzzle. Tesla is currently producing Optimus units for internal factory use, with plans to sell them commercially. SpaceX is designing systems for human habitation on Mars, which will require robots to do construction, maintenance, and hazardous operations before any humans arrive. The robot that builds a Tesla Gigafactory and the robot that builds a Mars habitat are, at the engineering level, the same robot. A merged company would be developing Optimus not just as a consumer product, but as planetary infrastructure. Now consider the risks. Concerns have been raised that if this mega merger proceeds, Tesla's general shareholders may be forced to bear excessive risk. SpaceX operates in a fundamentally different risk environment than a consumer automaker. Rockets explode, satellites deorbit. Government contracts can be canceled. Mars colonization has a timeline measured in decades, not quarters. Tesla shareholders who bought into an EV company would suddenly find themselves exposed to the economics of interplanetary logistics. Renowned investor Ross Gerber has suggested that the deal could look less like a merger of equals and more like SpaceX absorbing Tesla into a broader Musk-controlled structure. In other words, Tesla shareholders might not be getting a piece of SpaceX so much as SpaceX using Tesla's public market access to fund its own ambitions. That's a very different proposition for retail investors who have held Tesla stock for years, expecting EV market returns. There's also the regulatory dimension. A combined Tesla-SpaceX would touch military contracts, civilian aerospace, consumer automotive, satellite communications, artificial intelligence, and energy storage simultaneously. That's not one regulatory agency, that's the FAA, the FCC, the NHTSA, the DOE, the SEC, and potentially the Department of Defense, all having a stake in how this entity is structured and governed. SpaceX already notes in its IPO prospectus that it's a controlled company, which allows exceptions from standard governance rules, meaning Class A shareholders will not have the same protections as shareholders of typical companies. Layer Tesla's shareholder base on top of that structure, and you have one of the most complex governance situations in the history of American capitalism. SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell acknowledged that combining the companies might make Elon's life a little easier, while noting that right now she's focused on keeping the lights on. That's the clearest signal yet from inside SpaceX that a merger is being considered seriously, but that the timing hasn't been decided. Here's the bigger picture. Every major technological leap in history has happened when previously separate industries converged under a single architecture. The internet didn't just improve communication, it absorbed commerce, media, banking, and social interaction into one infrastructure layer. The smartphone didn't just improve the phone, it absorbed navigation, photography, music, and retail into a single device. A merged Tesla-SpaceX would be attempting something similar, but at a scale that has never been tried. Not one industry, but 5. Transportation, energy, artificial intelligence, satellite communications, and space exploration all unified under a single corporate structure with a single capital allocation decision maker. Whether that's the most efficient way to build the future or the most dangerous concentration of technological power in a single entity depends entirely on your view of how power should be distributed in a civilization that is about to become multiplanetary. What we know for certain is this: Elon Musk didn't say no. His company presidents are calling it inevitable. Wall Street is pricing it at 80%. And the infrastructure for the merger is already being built, one joint venture at a time. The only question left is the process.